Hey family, welcome to Sergeant Dorsey Speaks. I'm a retired 20-year veteran sergeant of the Los Angeles Police Department. I spent all 20 years working in uniform in patrol, and I am not afraid to pull the covers back and expose that thin blue line. As we reach the end of Black History Month, I thought it would be appropriate to share a story with you that deals with a civil rights settlement. There are 4 officers, and I don't mean just, ground pounder types. I mean captains, lieutenants, and sergeants over on the Little Rock Police Department who have just last month settled a civil rights suit in Little Rock, Arkansas. They are all members of the Little Rock Police Department, and they are Captain Tanya Washington, Lieutenant Earnest Whitten, Sergeant Willie Davis, and Lieutenant Johnny D Gilbert Jr. They filed this racial discrimination lawsuit back in 2018 due to what they believe to be uneven practices in hiring, discipline, and the promotion of minority officers, right? Uneven practices in discipline and hiring. And listen, this is not unique to Little Rock Police Department, probably not even unique to law enforcement. I talk a lot about what I called LAPD's two-tier system, that's a tongue twister, of disciplinary action. And I talk about it in my autobiography, Black and Blue, The Creation of a Social Advocate, because I believe that this two-tiered system of discipline on the Los Angeles Police Department led to an officer by the name of Christopher Dorner, who was fired because of this two-tiered system, going on a killing spree. And so, as I always say, let me tell you, I don't condone what Christopher Dorner did, but I understood how he got there, and I understand how LAPD will wind you down and grind you down and make you do things that are out of character. Little Rock PD, not very different. Uneven hiring, uneven promotions of minority officers. And so these 4 settled a civil suit, each getting $200,000. Now, some of them are still on the department, some have already retired, and they talk a little bit about why they decided to do this very daring thing. Because listen, when you go against the grain, when you take on an institution, there's a price to pay. Let's listen to them.
Begin tonight with a conversation with some veterans of the Little Rock Police Department who recently settled a federal discrimination lawsuit against the city.
It's a story we've been following since the lawsuit was filed 2 years ago. The 4 officers claimed racist and uneven practices within the department. Some of those officers spoke with Channel 7's Desmond Nugent. He joins us now with what they had to say. Desmond.
I spoke with 2 of the 4 officers, and this is their first time speaking on camera about this. They say this was a cause worth standing for, not just for their case, but for other minority officers in the future. These are the 4 Little Rock police officers that filed a racial discrimination lawsuit against the city in March 2018 due to uneven practices in hiring, discipline, and the promotion of minority officers. Captain Tanya Washington, Lieutenant Earnest Whitten, Sergeant Willie Davis, and Lieutenant Johnny D Gilbert Jr.
We stood up for what we thought was right, what we believed to be right. And so we didn't walk away from that.
Sergeant Willie Davis is a current Little Rock police officer and has been with the force for more than 25 years. He says this victory wasn't about money, but about being respected at your job. A respect retired LRPD officer Lieutenant Johnny D Gilbert Jr. didn't see much of under the former LRPD police chief Kenton Buckner.
Enough is enough. What about our dignity? What about our humanity? What about our self-respect? That's what we were fighting for.
The city reached a $200,000 settlement between the officers earlier this month. The officer's attorney, Max Lowe, says his case wouldn't have gotten to this point without the help of Mayor Frank Scott Jr. and current LRPD police chief Keith Humphrey.
I can say rather unequivocally that there's no way that they would have settled this case, and it would have been to the dismay of the city, not to these clients.
Lowe says although the city has room for improvement, he and his clients are happy with the settlement. Davis says this win is for other minority officers for the future.
I'm proud for them to see that it can happen. It's scary. It doesn't feel good. But when you have a support system and an awesome lawyer, then you feel good about making that walk and making that trek.
You heard one of the officers talk about how scary it can be to take on a two-tiered system, take on a bureaucracy. And so let me tell you a little bit about this guy over here. His name is Kenneth Bramlett, and he was the Inspector General at the Los Angeles Unified School District, where I worked for a few years after I had retired from the Los Angeles Police Department. I was a senior investigator in the Office of the Inspector General, and so I know a little bit about discrimination and retaliation and how daunting that process can be. If you want to hear in great detail about that, because I'm very limited here on Instagram with regards to the time that I can spend to share my story with you, but if you visit my YouTube channel, Sergeant Dorsey Speaks, you'll see a video where I talk about LAUSD's dirty little secret. You can also subscribe to my podcast, Sergeant Dorsey Speaks, where I talk again about LAUSD's dirty little secret, about that two-tiered system of discipline, about what happens when you take on a superpower and how they will come for you. I am currently in the midst of litigation with the Los Angeles Unified School District, and just on last week, they came for me. They took me to court to try to silence me and keep me from sharing depositions that had been taken of this gentleman, Kenneth Bramlett, who was shown the door unceremoniously about a year or so ago because, well, a lot of shenanigans were going on in our office. He allowed it. He knew about it. He did nothing to stop it. When I went to him and asked, when I emailed him, he ignored my emails. And I share all of this with you because I'm understanding that I'm not the only one. I have so many people who have reached out to me since last week when I started talking about what happened with this protective order that they attempted to get against me that was ultimately denied by the courts and silence me. See, when they run you over and make you roadkill, when they grind you down and wear you down, they do their best work under the cover of darkness. And so I'm all about transparency. I'm all about let's bring this out into the open. And I too hope to be like those 4 officers who will sit down soon and very soon. My case has been continued 4 times now, but eventually they're going to have to deal with me. And I am doing what I'm doing for others who didn't have the benefit of a 20-year LAPD career, didn't have the benefit of being an investigator and knowing how to investigate folks like this guy, didn't understand what it takes to document, because listen, family, if it's not written down, it doesn't exist. And so if you too find yourself similarly situated where you are being retaliated against at work because you've reported malfeasance, wrongdoing, misconduct, no matter the profession, understand it's a marathon, it's not a sprint. You need to document everything that's going on around you, as I did. That's why I've got this picture. It was taken during the deposition. And since I knew one day that I would be here being about to go to court, I did a lot of documentation. I did a lot of picture taking. I did a lot of photocopying. I did a lot of note taking. And so if you find yourself in a situation, do not wait till the last minute. Understand, for me, I am on year 5. I started this journey, this fight in 2015 against the Los Angeles Unified School District. And listen, they will try to wait you out. They will try to hopefully maybe run you out of financial wherewithal if you have an attorney who's charging you by the hour, like they probably thought mine was when they gave me 10,000 pages of discovery to go through. Maybe they thought my attorney was charging me by the page, but we went through each and every one, and man, oh man, were there nuggets buried in that discovery. And so, you know, what I also know is that when you look like this guy, you can screw up like he did over at the Los Angeles Unified School District. And listen, don't take my word for it. Google his name, Kenneth Bramlett. Google his Deputy Inspector General over investigations, Frank Kabibi. Google the superintendent at the time who co-conspired with them and railroaded me, ultimately terminating me wrongfully, Vivian Ekchian, who has been rewarded for being a good soldier and is now the superintendent, the first Armenian female superintendent over in Glendale, California. You see, when you're willing to make people roadkill, sometimes you get rewarded. You get to go from LAUSD not having your contract renewed because you're inept, according to one of the LAUSD board members, and ill-suited for that position, not really performing up to standard. You get to slide on over to Albuquerque and become the inspector general over there. Or they move you around like some of the Catholic churches did with the priests and put you over in Glendale as the superintendent over there and pretend like all of that stuff that happened at LAUSD didn't really happen. Oh, but there's a record, and I'm creating one. I've been creating this record since 2015, and I'm going to continue to do it. So at some point, LAUSD is going to have to deal with me, much like Little Rock Police Department had to deal with those 4 command staff officers and that supervisor. And, you know, this will benefit someone somewhere down the road. Just you hearing my voice and hearing what I've been through and might be encouraging as you go through what you go through. So for more about that, subscribe to my YouTube channel, Sergeant Dorsey Speaks. Subscribe to my podcast, Sergeant Dorsey Speaks, and listen to what I have to say about LAUSD's dirty little secret. That's it for now, family. Be good, be safe. Until next time, support Sergeant Dorsey Speaks via Venmo or my Cash App, Sergeant Dorsey Speaks, or purchase my autobiography and read about my 20-year LAPD career, Black and Blue, the creation of a social advocate. Be good, be safe.